This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Game number 81 in the books. One more to go in the regular season for the Winnipeg Jets. And thanks to last night's win over the Seattle Kraken, book it. Games 1 and 2 of the first round between the Jets and Avalanche will be here in the Peg next week at Canada Life Centre, and the Jets will host a potential deciding Game 7 as they have earned home ice over the Colorado Avalanche and confirmed their second-place finish in the Central Division behind only the Dallas Stars. We've got lots to get to today. I'm going to catch up with Dan Robertson, the play-by-play voice of the Winnipeg Jets. We'll also talk about the season so far and look ahead to the playoffs with Murat of The Athletic. And a little later on, Nic Demski is going to jump on the program. He's had a very busy offseason. Looking forward to catching up with him. Great night last night at the arena. Good to see, not just all the Jet fans there, but how about Marshawn Lynch making an appearance in the Peg, rocking his Seattle Kraken jersey? That was something I did not have on my bingo card at the beginning of the season, to have Marshawn Lynch in the house to see his hometown Seattle Kraken. I guess he's apparently doing a movie in Winnipeg. Movie star Marshawn Lynch, multi-talented individual. And he and a few people from the film came down. I know that they showed it on television, and a lot of us that were in the building started to get tweets. I'd actually found out the day before that he was in town and coming to the game, and that was good to see him repping the team. Obviously, the Winnipeg fans went home happy because the Jets got the job done. They needed one. They got two. Their 26th home ice win of the season, which is the second most home wins in franchise history. And they are now 51 wins on the season, one win short of tying the record set in 2017-18. Now, of course, that final game is tomorrow against the Vancouver Canucks, and there's a lot of interesting permutations that can happen coming out of this game, both for the Winnipeg Jets and the Vancouver Canucks. We're going to go through all of those in a minute, but in the meantime, quickly welcome everyone listening on podcasts. Thanks so much for making WST a part of your day. Get your whites ready for next week. Shout out to everybody in chat, fired up from the big win, 7 in a row now, the second longest winning streak of the year. And the Jets playing some real good hockey. It wasn't a perfect game last night, but I mean, they stepped up, got the job done. And now, from what we heard from Rick Bowness just shortly ago, it's all about Game 1 of the playoff series against the Colorado Avalanche. Let me thank the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Couldn't do it without them. The great people at Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Wallace & Wallace, Consolidated Supply, the Winnipeg Jets, Little Brown Jug, F Apparel, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Modern Man Barbershop, Manitoba Battery, Consolidated Supply, Canadian Club, Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club, and of course, we will get to a why not question of the day for the gang over at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. As we welcome everybody in chat, let's welcome Michael Remis into the program. Reem, what's up?
Hey, yeah, feeling good. You know what day? I don't know what day it is, but I know it's X days until the playoffs start. So, real exciting time. And yeah, great night last night at the arena. Great to see everyone in chat. And I'm really looking forward. I'm getting fired up, Huss. Playoffs are starting. Schedules are leaking out. At least matchups are. We'll wait and see what happens with the Jets' time being made official. But, hey, feeling good. I don't know. Does it stop raining outside?
Yeah.
I went to the game, it was raining, woke up and it was still raining. So anyway, but who cares about that, us? We're feeling good. 4-3 win. Home ice in the first round. Feeling good.
Oh, Ezra Ginsburg, of all people in chat. Good afternoon, Andrew and Michael. Good afternoon, Ezra. Great to see you and everybody else out at the game. Just quickly, people are asking. We did not meet Marshawn Lynch yesterday. I did sort of meander in the second intermission around to that end just to see if he was going to be hanging out. I'm not sure. It was weird because I was watching. I was in 206 last night. He was in the corner just to the left of the club seats. So like kind of like 121-ish, if you're familiar with the arena at Canada Life Center. About 3 rows down, he was getting popcorn or something like that. Came back down with about midway through the second period. And then took off with about 4 minutes left in the second. I believe he might have gone up and done a hit with the folks in the Seattle Kraken broadcast booth. I'm not sure about that. But then we didn't see him in the third period. But he did cause a bit of commotion last night in addition to what was happening on the ice, Remo. A very unlikely but famous fan in the building, albeit cheering for the visitors. He is a Seattle guy. We'll cut him some slack on that. And a very, very big dude. I mean, that is a mountain of a man, Marshawn Lynch.
I mean, they don't call him Beast Mode for no reason. I mean, he didn't get that name from being tackled easily. And the most famous one that run against the Saints in the playoffs. So he was an awesome running back, and he's a Kraken fan. We welcome all visiting fans. So pretty cool to see him in the building. Did not go. Maybe we should have. I was in the 300s. I should have gone down and, I don't know, tried to score. So we could have got, how many likes could we have got, Huss, on our Instagram? Like, yeah. Big missed opportunity.
That would have made your year. ESPN actually put out, I believe, something on Instagram and Twitter that Marshawn Lynch was in Winnipeg at the Kraken game. He is still noteworthy, despite being removed from the National Football League for all, mainly because he's one of the most hilarious and colorful personalities we've seen in sports in recent history.
Yeah, and he's doing with social media stuff. What, he's here doing a movie? Is that why he's here?
He's here doing a movie, but I think he does have a small piece of the Kraken as well.
He does.
He's a part of the group. So, hey, he had to come out, see his squad, support them while he's doing... if you have any other Marshawn Lynch sightings in Winnipeg while he's here, send them in on socials at Sports Talk WPG. Listen, the game itself, I mean, they got the win. Nice to see Kyle Connor sort of feeling it. Couple goals in that first period. I mean, that is very, very good news for the Jets' top line. But this was about getting out of the game unscathed, which did not entirely happen, and getting the win and booking home ice for the playoffs. By the way, I know everybody's asking. Scott Billick tweeted this out last night. We had mentioned it. It had been rumored, Elliot Friedman, as well as some other folks, that Monday is the likely start for the Jets-Avalanche series. That is not confirmed. That could change. But as Billick had said, and this is great for our Jewish friends like yourself that might have Passover dinners on Monday, Mike, could be a late start. I think we might have to get used to, at least in the first round, some 8:30, 8:45 puck drops due to the national television schedule. But gives people a chance to do a few things beforehand. And I imagine that means that it'll be a more well-lubricated crowd that I think will be even more ready to go when they drop the puck much later than normal.
Yeah, very concerned about conflicting with Passover dinner. I thought I might have to miss the game. I knew if it was on a Monday, it would be a late start. Passover and NHL playoffs come hand in hand. I missed Game 6, watching it live, of Blues Jets because of a dinner. Also,
well, you know what? That was good for you.
I taped it. I was like, I'll watch it later. Everyone's like, don't bother.
Do not.
I think I just tuned in for the end, and yeah, I think the Stamkos 60th goal game, 2011, the first season. I missed. That was like the only game I missed that year. So yeah, 8:30 start. You don't get to put the kids to bed, get to go, or you get to go out for dinner, have a couple drinks, and get ready for the game. The Whiteout Street Party tickets went on sale today, Huss. I don't know, they're not available now. I don't know if they sold out that quickly or not. People in
probably
chat
did.
are asking us. So yeah, people are ready for playoffs. I mean, these are the games that matter. Games are important. Where legends are born. We're still here talking about the party dangle in the playoffs. We're talking about Joe Morrow's game-winning goal in Game 1 against Minnesota. We're talking about Morgan Barron getting stitches last year. What legendary moments are going to be born from this playoffs? I can't wait to see, which players are able to add to their legacy here in Winnipeg. But first, we got one more game tomorrow against Vancouver. But nice to know that the first two games are going to be at home, and that's real big against Colorado. I mean, their road record has not very good. I mean, the record against the Jets, not very good.
Best home record in the league.
Their Jets, yeah, and so big advantage to get that second change and dictate the matchup that you want, which is going to be the Adam Lowry line. Although Morgan Barron, I just mentioned him, he was banged up. No real update on him. He's not going to play tomorrow, but not ruled out for Game 1. I think it was a lower body from John Liu.
Yeah, and you hope he'll be able to go for game number 1. Other than that, the Jets, pretty darn healthy. Fingers crossed. You get through game number 82 tomorrow against the Canucks, and there's lots surrounding this game that we're going to get to. I see, as he said, Huss, please, we have potential Passover-Seder conflicts. Well, isn't that why that's good that the game is late?
Yes.
Because you can probably do both. I know that was Remis's take. I just follow him.
I just like that I can put my kids'
issues.
T-Well, for all the dads out there, says 8:45 start. I might get to watch the whole game after putting my kids to bed. Rob Pepper, not a fan. I think you're going to have hot takes either way. And
well, it's not ideal.
It's all for TV. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's all for TV. And
aren't you happy though? Aren't you happy though that the games are here in Winnipeg, and you have the opportunity to complain about the start times of your home playoff game to begin the Stanley Cup playoffs? These are first world problems. And that a lot of other teams around the league that are finishing up last night, tonight, and tomorrow would certainly love to have. Let's get to the scenarios for tomorrow's game right off the bat. And I know there was a lot of discord that this game doesn't mean anything for the Canucks or Jets. That's not really the case. First up for the Jets, and shout out to Ryan Kibbins, who's a regular listener. He hit me up right after the game and made a great point, and I dug into it a little bit more. The Winnipeg Jets are 1 point behind Vancouver. If the Jets beat the Canucks tomorrow, if they beat them in regulation or in overtime or a shootout, they will actually be ranked ahead of the Canucks. They'll either be 1 point ahead of them with 110 to 109, or if it's an OT or a shootout, will be tied with them at 110. But because the Jets have the most regulation wins in the National Hockey League, they will get that tiebreaker. So the one thing that technically is on the line, and again, this could be meaningless, hopefully it means something, is home ice in the third round of the playoffs in the conference championships. Now listen, if the Jets advanced to the conference finals and played Edmonton or played Vegas or LA, anybody other than Vancouver, the Jets will have home ice. They would need to finish ahead of the Canucks to get that. And as I tweeted out earlier, just did a little digging today, this is how things work. In the conference finals and Stanley Cup final, home ice advantage goes to the team that had the better regular season record, regardless of the team's final standings in their respective division. So in theory, if Vancouver comes out of the Pacific and the Jets come out of the Central, tomorrow night's game would be the deciding game when it comes to who's at home, who gets home ice. Now, that's a long ways away, and there's a lot of things that have to happen for both of those teams to get to that point. And from what we're hearing from Rick Bowness today, it sounds like that's not important to the Jets, and they will be playing guys that have been scratched. They'll be resting some players, and they'll be getting ready to go. And just as Michael Remis mentioned, Morgan Barron was the guy that got injured last night. No update at this point, not ruled out for game 1 of the playoffs, but he won't play. And all the 5 scratches from last night's game on the blue line, Nate Schmidt and Colin Miller. Up front, Cole Perfetti, Rasmus Kupari, and Oh, and David Gustafsson, of course. They'll all be in the lineup tomorrow. From a Canucks perspective, though, Reem, like five, and we'll get into the matchups that we already have set right now after last night's action. The Canucks actually, and this will depend on what happens tonight with Dallas and the St. Louis Blues. If St. Louis beats Dallas tonight, a win by the Canucks would actually make them the number 1 seed in the conference because, again, of the tiebreaker. They tie at 111. Now, what that might mean is a date with the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round. Although with Vegas's win last night, they can confirm third place and play the Edmonton Oilers if they beat Anaheim in their final game of the season. I don't think it's a surprise that teams would rather play the Kings than the Golden Knights in the first round. But for Vancouver, potential home ice throughout the playoffs could be on the line tomorrow. But as we said, it sounds like Winnipeg not too concerned about that. And Remo, what did you learn about what Rick Tocchet had to say after last night's game as it pertains to how the Canucks are looking at Game 82 here in the Peg?
Yeah, we know hockey teams like to take it one game at a time. So I don't think they're looking far ahead. Oh, well, if you get matched up in Vancouver, if you happen to make it to the third round, then you would have home ice. So as you said, the Jets are looking to play all the scratches from yesterday, and Moose Call still see after tonight's game. Mike Halford of, I don't know what it's called, Sportsnet Radio in Vancouver. He posted this Rick Tocchet tweet from last night after the game where they beat Calgary. And Rick Tocchet said, "We're going to talk to the group, talk to the trainers, see who's banged up. There's a lot of factors involved. We're going to have to do some research and figure out the best way to handle this. You always want to win every game, but there's precautionary things too." So it sounds like, they're probably going to be sitting some guys as well. And, for the Jets, they're sitting some guys, but we are still on Jennings watch, Hustler.
Yes,
and
Jennings.
That's what's really important here. Like, would you rather have home ice in a third round or the Jennings?
Well, they're not mutually exclusive. I think that if you win the Jennings, you got a pretty good chance of winning that game. And it wouldn't be a bad thing to be on an 8-game heater going into the playoffs. It would be a great thing, I think, for the organization and everyone, goaltenders, team, coaches, to win that Jennings trophy. I think that would be a big feather in the cap of everybody. And it would be awesome to host Game 1 and potentially Game 7 of a conference final for a trip to the Cup. All of that doesn't matter, though, if you don't beat the Colorado Avalanche and get through even to round 2. So I do understand the line of thinking that a lot of that stuff will take care of itself down the line. The job right now for the organization, the coaching staff, and the team is to avoid injuries, have your team as rested and ready to go when you drop the puck with everything back to even in a best-of-7 against a hell of a team in the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, and for people in chat who say they don't care about the Jennings, I care about the Jennings. When I visit the Hockey Hall of Fame and go to the Great Hall, and go to the trophy room, and I look at all the trophies, you know how much cooler it is when you go to a trophy and see Winnipeg Jets? When I saw Kyle Connor's name on that Lady Bing with all the legends up there, that is cool. It's part of hockey history. Yeah, obviously you care about the one trophy, the Stanley Cup, but I think that's a pretty cool accomplishment, and I think it would be great to see Connor Hellebuyck's name on another trophy in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I care. I think it's exciting, and we'll see what happens there. Big Brossoit is going to start, so he's been excellent as well. So, the Jets are playing great. Yeah.
The irony of that situation tomorrow, and we've talked a lot about LB not getting the 25 games that would put his name on the trophy. The Jennings, whether the team wins or loses the Jennings trophy, is going to be in the hands of Laurent Brossoit and the guys that play tomorrow against whoever Vancouver puts out there. So regardless of anything, and the Jets, just to confirm where things are at, I believe it is a 3-goal difference right now between the clubs. Goals against, let's go. Winnipeg,
they got 197.
The Panthers 200. So if the Jets allowed 3 goals tomorrow, it would be a tie. 2 goals or less, the Jets win the Jennings. 4 goals or more, Florida wins. Again, big picture, not that important, but something that I know the organization would appreciate, the fans, the players, the coaching staff, and the goaltenders would as well. And listen, playing well and not giving up goals against is a good thing at any time. But again, I'm not sure really what that focus will be, because as it sounds right now, Remis, neither of these teams are playing to win tomorrow. They're playing to make it through and get ready for game 1. And I can't say I disagree with it.
Yeah, you're playing. You want to be healthy for round 1. You can't get to round 3 if you don't win round 1 and 2. So if they got guys who are banged up, need to be sat. I mean, you want to play the speculation game on who's not playing for the Jets tomorrow, because we're seeing some of these end of season lineups. Like Carolina, they didn't play any of their guys. Yes, I think they had 7 guys sit. So the Jets are going to have minimum 5, and the Moose are in Milwaukee, and they're going to address call-ups after the game. So we'll see how it goes. One thing I'm thinking, Hus, there could be some good betting opportunity with guys getting increased ice time. Maybe the books aren't as up to speed on the lineups, but I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on tomorrow night. The last game of the year is always a bit of a celebration. You got another Canadian team. 4 Canadian teams going for the Stanley Cup. All pretty legitimate chances. Edmonton, Vancouver finishing 1-2 in the Pacific. Jets finishing second, and Toronto facing their arch rival, the Boston Bruins, in the first round. So a lot of excitement there for the national broadcaster, which has to decide which team to show when.
I'm just going to do this for a minute. So we've got the 4 matchups in the East set. Boston loses their last 2 games. Didn't even really compete in the first 5 periods of those 6 before outshooting Ottawa 23-2 in the final third, but not being able to get it done. Florida's win over the Leafs means it's the Battle of Florida between Florida and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the Boston Bruins and the Leafs are going at it in the first round. And it had looked like it had been Florida and Toronto for the better part of the last month or so. That changed at the end. Boston 4-0 against the Leafs this year. Much speculation that they didn't really try too hard these last couple of games because they wanted the Leafs. I'll say this, I think it'll be really fun matchups for fans. That Florida matchup is going to be amazing with the Lightning. Boston, the Leafs will be good. The other 2 matchups, not so much. The Capitals get in on an empty net goal in a tie game in regulation, just as we talked about yesterday was a possibility, unfortunately. The Capitals are in with their minus 37 goal differential for the season. The Islanders are in with their minus 18 goal differential for the season. The Rangers will play the Caps in the first round. The Carolina Hurricanes will play the New York Islanders. The only thing set right now in the West is the Jets and Avs. We know the Jets and Avs are playing, and we know games 1 and 2 are going to be here in the Peg next week. As I laid out, depending on what happens with this Dallas game tonight and the Jets Canucks tomorrow, Vancouver could technically get to the 1 seed over Dallas. We know Edmonton is second place. Vegas won yesterday. If Vegas beats the Ducks in their final game, they will play Edmonton. And then you've got the Los Angeles Kings, who, assuming the Golden Knights win that game, will likely be the 8th place team, and they would play the Dallas Stars if Dallas and Vegas win. But you remember way back in the day when they went 1-16 in the playoffs, Reem?
Yes.
We were talking about this on the Lock Shop. Listen to these matchups. And again, this is as it is right now. Teams have 1 game left, a few of them. The Oilers have 2, although I don't think it would change that much. But let's just say the season ended right now, and this was the playoffs. This is who we would be getting. Let's see here. Points. The Capitals or Blues. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10.
Are you going I have it on the screen here.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So the Rangers win the President's Trophy. They'd play the 16th place team, which right now says Washington, but St. Louis would have that. St. Louis and Washington and Detroit are all tied at 91. So that team would be popping in. The Dallas Stars would be playing the New York Islanders. The Lightning would play the Hurricanes. LA Kings versus Florida Panthers. Vegas Golden Knights versus Canucks. Nashville versus Boston. And get this, Winnipeg Jets, Toronto Maple Leafs, first round, and Avalanche Oilers. I know there's way more travel and it can be unfair to some other teams, but it would be cool at one point if they considered going to a very new look that is old, and just having a complete free-for-all of the top 16 teams in the league. I would certainly be here for that. Think of so many different potential matchups in each and every round that we would never normally see.
Yeah, I'm in favor of going for 1 to 8 like they used to. I don't know why they changed. I can think of a number of reasons, but I never thought about 1 to 16. I don't think they would ever do it. I do feel like in the current format, you're not really getting rewarded if you're in a tough division for your great season. Every matchup in the West, very strong. The East, I mean, the Capitals.
The East is the exact same. Like if you did 1 to 8 this year in the East, there's no change from the series. So which happens. So anyway, some fun stuff talking about what could be and what will happen in the playoffs. The East is set right now. Jets and Avs is set. And we'll get to the lines and the games tonight. When it comes to the Dallas Stars. Oh, and tonight, of course, the final Coyotes game as well at Mullet Arena. Somehow the Oilers still have 2 games left to play. Some teams are done. Everybody else has 1 game to play. Edmonton going back-to-back tonight in Arizona and tomorrow against the Colorado Avalanche. But listen, we're going to talk to Dan Robertson coming up in a couple minutes. Let's just quickly hear from Bones post-game last night. Very happy and proud of his team. 51 wins on the year, a 26th win at home, as we mentioned, 7 wins in a row, 8 straight games. The Jets have held opponents to 3 goals or less, and the Jets have scored 3 goals or more in 7 consecutive, which is the longest streak this season, all happening at the most important time of the year. Here's what Bones had to say about the win and clinching home ice in the first round against the Avs.
Yeah, feels good. That was something that it was our objective. Once we got this later on in the season, okay, we have a shot at getting home ice. Let's go for it and give the guys a lot of credit. They buckled down and we got it. And so I think it's important for us to be able to do that. And, yeah.
How'd you get things turned around during this winning streak?
Pardon me?
How'd you get things turned around during this winning streak for your group as a whole to get some momentum?
I think, even that 6 games we were losing, we played a couple of really good games in there. We did. I mean, not really good, but well enough to get a point or something. So we didn't let that beat us up. We kept the focus on the process and getting back to the things that we do well for 60 minutes, and we were able to do that.
There's Bones. Bones also talked about listen, we all know this team was not looking good a few weeks ago in that season-long 6-game losing streak. They've completely turned it around on a 7-game heater, hottest team in the NHL. As we go to broadcast today, Bones talked about his Jets getting back to their structure that was the foundation of their success earlier this year.
Yeah, well, because they know now what it looks like, and they know now things aren't going well. What we have to do, it's a little easier for them to see it themselves, right? Because we've been doing it now for 2 years, it's a little easier to recognize, and they they have to buy in, and they've done that.
All right, Rick Bowness. One of the other nice things coming out of last night's game was the play of the top line, especially in the first period. Kyle Connor getting onto the scoreboard early and then late. 2 goals, both at even strength. Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey assisting on both. Here's what Bones had to say about number 81 at Kyle Connor.
You know what I see in his game? I see him skating really well at both ends of the ice. He really is. So that tells you he's engaged in the game. There's been some great back checks. I mean, I know he's scoring goals and he's creating things, but you watch how many times, how hard he comes back. So when you see that in your players, you know they're totally engaged. And he is an elite offensive player that when he's engaged in the game, he's going to get those opportunities, he's going to bury them.
All right, so there is Bones. Listen, Ehlers was awesome last night too. That line continues to click, and seems like both lines are sort of feeling it right now. Bones talked about having both scoring lines going at once, and of all times, heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, again, we like that chemistry of the Monahan, Toffoli, and Ehlers line from the day we put them together, and that's looked good. Gabe's missed quite a bit of, he's missed enough time. But when he's there on that line, he looks good on it. We know the combination of Mark and KC works, because before KC got hurt, he was leading the league in goals, so we know that's there. But we needed that second line to come up and be more consistent, and they've done that with the acquisition of Sean and Tyler.
All right, one more from Bones. Just talked about how he and his coaching staff, what they've been doing behind the scenes, getting ready for the playoffs.
Our coaches work very hard. They're here early in the morning, and they're all very intelligent hockey. They're good hockey people, and they're good people. They all have good rapport with the players, and that's important today. That communication you absolutely have to have with your players, and the whole staff is very good at that. But they work closely with the players, and they come to the rink every day, and they're very well prepared. So, again, how many head coaches can take the month of November off, and the team can keep going? So, give them all the credit. They deserve an awful lot of it.
High praise from Bones for Arnie and the rest of his staff. Kyle Connors, we mentioned, had the 2 goals last night. He had that torrid start, as Bones mentioned, leading the league in goals, and then did struggle, through the second half of the season. It's really turned it around lately. Here's Kyle Connor on clinching home ice, and if he's playing his best hockey of the season.
Nice to get out of the way in this game. I thought we stuck with it, ups and downs of the game. No matter what, we stuck up for each other, support each other when we didn't make the plays that we needed to, and, just a kind of gritty win there to pull it out.
Heading into the playoffs, Kyle, for you, do you feel like you're playing your best hockey at any point of the season?
You could say that for a lot of guys in here. Myself, I think we're all ramping up. And building towards that, yeah. So, confidence is pretty high going into the playoffs for everybody here. And our team game, we know what it takes to win. We kind of found ourselves an identity, and I feel like in this last month, and really showing what it takes to win. We obviously went on a skid there where we lost 5 straight, and we took a deep look at our game and what was working and what wasn't working. And personally as well, I think everybody kind of looked themselves in the mirror at that point. Realized that we needed better from everybody, and we're just as hungry as everybody right now.
There's some cut from Kyle Connor, and I have to agree with Bones. I mean, that word engagement, it seemed like at times during the losing streak and, in the doldrums of, that kind of game 65, maybe through 75, that, at times the Jets certainly weren't engaged, and some players more than others. Kyle Connor's back, knows what he needs to do to help his team win, and certainly, back with Mark Scheifele, realized that there's a lot of pressure on them in both ends, not just about scoring goals. But Connor talked to us as well last night about how, the team has sort of really found their game that, helped them get to the top of the standings or near early on in the season during the 7-game winning streak heading into game 82.
Seeing what works when we're great, we're pressuring teams, we're skating. You can't do anything if your feet aren't moving out there, in the D zone. First time you get the puck, you got to get those feet moving, those quick strides. And, it takes everybody being on the same page, all as a unit. If one guy's not doing their job, it slows everybody down. And, you see in our neutral zone when we press with 2 forwards in that forecheck, we turn a lot of pucks over and we get to play with the puck in their zone.
All right, one more from Kyle Connor. Of course, he's back with Mark Scheifele. We've seen brilliance offensively from those players at times in the past, and we saw some of it last night. Here's Kyle Connor on the pass from Mark on his first goal last night and a little more.
It's something that I'm not surprised at all, though. I see it so many times. It's just he's a really gifted player. He has a really good timing of picking up that puck down low and getting his head around and having a feel for where I'm at. And I just try to put myself in the best position where he can make that pass. And he does that in his sleep, so it's pretty cool to see.
You guys look really dangerous on that low to high pass, and you talked about putting yourself in the right spot. What goes into finding the timing that you guys seem to be able to find? There was one shift there where it was like you did it almost 3 times in a row, and you're into the zone, into the slot, out of the slot, back. What goes into finding the timing to be there at the right time for him?
Yeah, well, if you just stand there, it's pretty easy to cover. So like you're saying, you got to time it out right. Trying to find the blind spots of the defender, who's on you. Whether you're going really high and then coming in with speed, or just being more patient and pulling out. So you just try to get lost in that area. Sometimes they get so puck focused on where it's going, whether it's a change of sides, and if they turn their back a little bit, that's where you kind of push off them and time it in. Mark and Gabe's really good at that as well. He's got great vision down there. He hangs around the net. I think we kind of read off each other, and there's some chemistry. You kind of know where you're going to.
All right, we're going to talk to Dan Robertson coming up in a minute. What the best thing about coming out of last night's game and what's happened over the last 7 as the Jets have turned this thing around? So much of the conversation was about that top line, and it was Connor versus Ehlers, everyone taking a side. You look at last night's game, Kyle Connor with 2 goals. Ehlers scores his 25th of the season with 0 on the power play. And then Ehlers also chips in on the winning goal, setting up Tyler Toffoli on a power play goal by PP2. A lot of good things happening all at the same time. And, it's nice not to be pitting teammates against each other. It's just talking about how everyone's doing their thing to help this team win hockey games, which is the bottom line.
Yeah, Kyle Connor went through a rough stretch there. Got sent down to the second line, had that breakout game when Cole Perfetti was beating him passes, but he's now got an 8-game point streak, has 4 goals, 8 assists, and you mentioned Nikolai Ehlers with 1 goal, 1 assist, hit 60 points, 3rd time in his career. How about this? There's so much in our chat saying, Ehlers, he gets hurt all the time, not healthy. And look at this, 81 games.
Iron Man.
He can hit 82. I think the Jets have a number of players who can hit 82, but I anticipate they'll be...
Monahan can hit 83.
He got to do it for the record book. You're going to be in history. He missed that 1 game. Although if I had to pick, we were picking a draft on which guys are going to sit, I'm taking Monahan first overall.
No, so, I don't think there's any way. I don't think there's any way Monahan plays tomorrow if they are resting some guys.
Do it for the history books. You got to get in on 83, I think. But yeah, look how many guys are at 81: DeMello, Lowry, Morrissey, Ehlers, Appleton, Iafallo, and Pionk. I imagine a couple of those guys are going to be sitting tomorrow. But yeah, so often, Huss, it's either the top line's going and the second line isn't, or the second line's going and the first line isn't. They're both going. And, the bottom lines can chip in offensively as well from time to time. So the nice performance there. And, they had that 4-minute power play, which was not great in the game. But, that they were distributing the power play ice time pretty evenly. The first one, would go out for a minute, second unit go on. And, they finally get it in. And Ehlers finds Toffoli cutting through the middle. And what a nice move he made to put it past the Kraken goalies. So, looking pretty strong yesterday, but maybe not, not their total A-game performance that we've seen.
All right, Murat's coming up. We'll hit all of these topics and look ahead to the playoffs with him in a minute. But first up, I got to thank our friends at Consolidated Supply. We've got a little bit of rain right now, but water for your property, incredibly important. And they're the irrigation system specialist for both commercial and residential. Not to mention working with golf courses all around the province. But Consolidated Supply has so much more than that. Artificial turf experts. They are the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba with amazing deals on both new and used golf carts, the best in the biz, and other great options for your property like hot tubs and incredible outdoor kitchen options. And of course, they're also the leaders in small engine parts and repair. So much Consolidated Supply can do for you. Pop by and see them at their showroom, open to the public 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. And of course, everybody ramping up for the change of the season, and Manitoba Battery is ready to power you into spring and summer with the best deals in town as part of the Manitoba Battery spring sale on right now. 2 locations for Manitoba Battery, the original location on Logan Avenue, the new location on Dovercourt, with incredible deals right now. You can see the 13-inch case, the 10-inch dual post, GM Ford truck batteries, and an amazing deal on golf cart batteries as well. The 6-volt 225 now on for $129. Pop by and see them in store, or go to manitobabattery.com for all the savings. And don't forget, Manitoba Battery will deliver the batteries to you anywhere in the city of Winnipeg for free with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. If you're looking to get a fresh cut for the playoffs, maybe dye your hair white, our friends at Modern Man Barbershop are ready for you. 8 locations in the city of Winnipeg, including the newest stores on Plessis Road and Pembina Highway. Modern Man's got you covered, fellas, with great haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. There's one conveniently located near you. Best way to go about booking your look and making an appointment is go online to modernmanbarber.com and give them a follow on Instagram as well, at Modern Man Barbershops. And hey, we got a chance to pull the CC out after the game as well and toast to home ice in the first round. Here's to many celebratory cheers with Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey throughout the playoffs for Winnipeg Jet fans. Of course, you can enjoy Canadian Club at Princess Auto Stadium as the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And for the big playoff run to come, make sure you're stocked up. Next time you're popping by your local Manitoba liquor marts, check out the Canadian Club display and make it Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club. All right, Murat still to come in a few minutes, but just a little earlier this morning, got a chance to catch up with Dan Robertson on the season so far in the upcoming playoffs. This was before we had clarity of how the Jets were going to handle their lineup today, but a great chat with Dan. Let's bring him onto the program right now. Dan, it's great to have you back on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me on.
But I kind of want to talk to you with the season overall before we dive into the playoffs. But living in the moment, what an incredible turnaround from where this team was about 2.5 weeks ago, losing 6 in a row, not looking anything like the team that had been so good for most of the season. And here we are, a 7-game heater going into game 82 and a home ice in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been pretty remarkable. And I think sometimes when you're in a season like this, you can't really appreciate it for what it is. And like every other team that's going to be in the playoffs, I think the Jets will be judged by what they do in the postseason. That's just the nature of the beast. But there's been a lot of impressive stats and storylines that have happened this year. And you mentioned that, right? You remember what the attitude was around the fan base with the 6-game winless streak, and understandable. I think we were all wondering, like, what happened to this Jets team that rarely gave up a quality scoring chance for a big portion of the year, and then they drop 6 in a row and they get 1 point out of it. And it's kind of cool. Connor Hellebuck said the other day after practice, he said, near the end of that winless streak, we had a video session, and it's like a collective light bulb went on for everybody, and we realized, okay, we have to stop beating ourselves up and just get back to work. And then they kind of turned it around from there. But it's a quality team, right? And Rick said, I guess 2 days ago, after a practice, he was asked, and rightly so, how are you able to go into Dallas and into Colorado and shut them both out? And he said, let's not forget here, we're a really good team, right? We lead the league in wins and regulation. No team is going to go 82-0. Like, everybody has their ups and downs, but it's been a real blast when you consider what the question marks were coming into this season. And then the signings of Scheifele and Hellebuck, there's so much to look back on, but it's been really fun this year.
It is. I mean, and I would say, we talk about things, refer to them as a roller coaster. And listen, it was a little bit of a down a few weeks ago, and now it is right back up, playing some of the best hockey of the year at the most important time. But overall, for the most part, Dan, over 82 games, this has been a pretty consistent hockey club. I think they had the 4-game losing streak like midway through the year. And 2 weeks ago, that slump. And other than that, I mean, this team's been playing at a very, very impressive clip. And 51 wins in the standings is the result.
No, you're right. And there's so much to like, whether it's the depth, from lines 1 to 4, and even there's guys who haven't been able to get in regularly lately, like David Gustafsson. When he's been helping. They've been healthy for the most part. Velarde obviously missed some time, and Scheifele as well. Kyle Connor too. Everybody's going to have their injuries. But if you look at the goaltending, I mean, that's been great. The addition of Laurent Brossoit, I hope people give that as much attention as they should, because last year, with respect to David Riddick, when the Jets needed a quality start down the stretch trying to get into the playoffs, they couldn't play him. They couldn't count on him because he was giving up at least a bad goal every game, it seemed. Well, this year, I mean, Brossoit's been outstanding. So and even if you look at the systems, and I'm no technician or great analyst when it comes to that sort of thing, but you watch them long enough to know that when they play the way that the coaching staff wants them to play, they're just really difficult to play against. And we saw that especially in Dallas and in Denver.
You mentioned the goaltending. I mean, we're spoiled. Connor Hellebuck, so brilliant, likely Vezina Trophy winner. But Laurent Brossoit has had a big, big part of it as well. And, it is unfortunate he didn't get the necessary 25 games to potentially be on the Jennings Trophy. But just as I pull this up, Dan, that's another side story that we'll certainly be watching and thinking about, and I'm sure you'll be paying attention to on the broadcasting Game 82, and that the Winnipeg Jets have 197 goals against. The Florida Panthers are done with 200, and if they're able to hold Vancouver to 2 goals or less, it would mean the Jennings Trophy. Obviously, no impact on the playoffs. But I would think that this organization, Rick Bowness, the goaltenders, the entire team would love to have that on the mantle and that accomplishment, considering what the expectations were as you kind of laid out.
Yeah, well, it's a great goal to have, right? If you're the best defensive team statistically in hockey after 82 games, then that's quite a feather in your cap. And no, it doesn't guarantee anything for the first round of the playoffs, or if they're able to get past that any further, it doesn't guarantee anything. But to me, it speaks to a lot of things. Obviously, terrific goaltending, but systematically not allowing a lot of great scoring chances for the most part over the course of the year. And I referenced earlier that streak where they allowed 3 goals or less. I mean, it was to the point where, and it was especially against Colorado and Dallas, that if there was a breakdown defensively in that stretch, or for the most part of the year, you're like, what's going on here? Where it became kind of a rarity. And a lot of times that would happen, and either Hellebuck or Brossoit would come up with a big save. So I wasn't going to predict coming into the season they'd have the best goals against or second to Florida, however it ends up. But it's almost, to me, I'd rather have that than the most goals for, if that makes any sense, going into the playoffs. Rick Bowness went. Yeah, that's what he wants, right? So, because to me, that's more of a playoff style of hockey, and you hope they can continue that when they open against the Avalanche.
Well, speaking of the Avalanche, I mean, the game on Saturday, I still haven't entirely wrapped my head around it. I mean, 7-0. I mean, start to finish. I mean, they absolutely controlled them. And how rattled Jared Bednar and Taves were after the game hearing them. I mean, the Jets have a season sweep. Listen, the Avs have the history. They were the Cup champs 2 years ago. They're favorites, on the betting lines. But the Winnipeg Jets just beat them 7-0. They beat them all 3 matchups this year. And when you look at this series, and this team, you travel with them all year, there has to be a great level of confidence for Winnipeg going up against a team they know quite well and have fared very well against.
Yeah, I think so. And if you mentioned those 3 games, how they swept them during the regular season, and again, it doesn't guarantee anything, but if you look at the flip side, if they got shellacked or even, beaten 4-5-1 Saturday, they're probably not feeling that great coming out of there. And you can even go back to the Dallas game and say the same thing. Dallas had won all the games prior to that between the two, and they go in there and they were outscored 9-3 in the 3 games before that. I think it was 3. And then they shut them out 3-0. So, but if you look at it, it's it's much better, obviously, to have the sweep than to, go into the playoff series and think, okay, well, we're missing something. We don't match up well with them. I think would be a big concern if it was that way. But and it's just one game. And Rick pointed out correctly that they really had an off game. Obviously, Colorado did, but there was something for them to play for too, right? Obviously, they're trying to get home ice advantage, and going into that game, right off the bat, I found that Colorado was at a position the Jets were really disciplined, and I don't mean just not taking penalties, but just positionally disciplined and playing the way that the Jets team has played when they're playing well this year. So I thought it was pretty telling. Like, you're always looking forward to the first round of the playoffs, but I'm really anxious for this one to start. It just, even last night, it might have sounded like a silly question, but we had a bit of a roundtable in the second intermission with Kevin Sawyer, Craig Button, and I said, does home ice mean anything? And they both said, yeah, it does. And, Colorado, they won 30 games at home this year. I think the only team to do that. And we know what the fans here, what the difference they can make. So there's a ton of storylines as we get set for that opening series.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing to have home ice advantage in a series where you're playing against a team with the best home ice record in the National Hockey League. I think it sort of goes without saying. And then there's the game within the game. And Dan, sometimes we refer to the Avs as a little top heavy. I don't think they have the depth 1 to 12 of the forwards that the Winnipeg has, but they have arguably the MVP of the league this year, Nathan MacKinnon. And that matchup in particular, to have 4 of the 7 games and potentially in a game 7, the ability to have the last change and to get the captain Adam Lowry out against Nate MacKinnon in the preferred matchup, I think is something that probably means more in this series than it might in a lot of other matchups.
No, that's well put, and I'm sure they want to get Josh Morrissey out there against MacKinnon as much as they can too. And Makar bringing it from his own end up the ice, we know what he can do. But it is true. It's like some series, for whatever reason, and you can look. I don't know what it was last year, how many teams with home ice through the playoffs won their series, but you do make a good point, and make a good point about the depth, too, of the two teams. Like, Colorado made some significant changes leading into the trade deadline. They traded a really good defenseman, Bo Byram, to upgrade, in theory, at second-line center with Casey Middlestad. Like, they made some alterations. They brought in Trennan. I know I'm forgetting a couple of guys, but they made some maneuvers to try and get better. In theory, maybe they have, but sometimes that takes a while to mesh. But that's the thing. You look at it, and with respect to all the Jets, with the high-end guys, right? The Rantanens, MacKinnon, Makar, can the Jets match them that way? I'm not sure. I think Morrissey probably is as good or better defensively than Makar, but I think the depth of the Jets will really help them, and obviously in goal, that's where the decided advantage is.
Well, I've no doubt. Georgiev, I think, is, it couldn't have gotten worse for him on Saturday. And then to have what happened Sunday the next day in a game that he wasn't even supposed to play, but they put him in because he got yanked against Winnipeg. Certainly the stability of the goaltending position, very different in Winnipeg and Colorado. You mentioned Josh Morrissey, Dan, and this is maybe more of a bigger question. He had the breakout season last year. We talked about how, if you've been paying attention, this is a guy that should be getting consideration and being in that Norris conversation. His point total is down a little bit, but still very significant. I think he might have had a better year this year. Like, what do you make of Josh Morrissey's impact and just how he's grown as a player over the last couple of seasons?
No, it's been remarkable. Obviously, the trajectory that he followed from the end of 2 years ago statistically to 76 point last year is amazing. But I don't disagree with you that he's had a better season this year. My consistent thought about Josh this year is brilliant reads and like killing plays in neutral ice. The decisions that he makes. So we know how he can skate. We know how he can pass. And we know how he can move the puck. And that latter is part of his hockey IQ. But his reads to step up on a guy and take I don't know if you call it a qualified risk, but just make a play where he can make a decision so quickly and get up and kill things has been so impressive, and he does it all over the ice. And I've also noticed too, in the last little while, like the bigger the game, the better he plays. And I think we've seen that over the last couple of years. So I don't know how you can qualify. Maybe there's underlying analytics that would tell you if he had a better year this year or the same quality as last year. But boy, defensively, there's no way he was better last year than this year. He's a guy that's, and this was my second year here, just to watch him every night. You try not to gush about him in the broadcast, but it's pretty hard because he does so many things so well most of the time.
Well, and I mean, no better example than those 2 games in Dallas and Colorado. I mean, you look at, it's 10-0, the team scoring all that, the shutout. He was as impactful as probably any, I think, in both of those games. And as you mentioned, I mean, the big games, the big matchups, Bones is going to be tapping 44 on the shoulder more than even regular, and that's still playing a lot of minutes for the Winnipeg Jets. While we're on the blue line, how impressed have you been with what Logan Stanley's done with his latest opportunity? I'm not sure a lot of people thought that he would even be coming. He spent the majority of the season in the press box. And listen, full credit, he has taken advantage of the opportunity, and it looks like he's going to be a Game 1 player for Rick Bowness.
Yeah, he has. I think he's figured some things out, and it's been a tough season for him. He played 19 games last year. I think he's played 24 now this year, but there was a stretch where he was kind of the forgotten man, and then they go out and they get Colin Miller, and he probably thought, oh, wow, I'm pushed down to the depth charts again. But I think somewhere along the line, Logan maybe figured out again what the differentiator in his game can be to Nate Schmidt or to Miller. And that's the fact that he's 6'7". And I mean, you saw that when he got in, he was fighting. Not that necessarily is going to keep him in the lineup, but he was more aggressive physically. And it's difficult, I think, when you're out of the lineup for a long time to be confident enough to be aggressive, because I think the tendency is to not want to make any mistakes. So you kind of sit back a little bit. But I credit him because he's played his game. He's cleared the front of the net. He's been a pretty good penalty killer. And he's been a good partner with Sandberg. So it is, like Kevin and I said the other day, I think we said it off air and then we said it on air. Like if you would have said at Christmas time that Logan Stanley is going to be in your top 6 heading into the playoffs, then nobody would have believed it. And that's not being disrespectful to Logan. I just like the fact that he's grabbed onto things and he's been able to, make a difference in Rick Bowness's eyes so far.
Well, and all you have to do is look at, what Vegas was thrown out on the blue line last year. And I mean, size makes a difference come playoff time. And it's just nice that Stan arrived when he did and has been able to contribute the way he has been, and hopefully will continue to do when the puck drops against the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Robertson, voice of the Jets on TSN, is with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Dan, we were talking off air beforehand. This is a kind of a weird scenario on Thursday night, in that the Jets are going through the Central Division. Vancouver's going to be playing in the Pacific Division. And on the surface, you would think that this is just simply a warm-up. Maybe you play some other guys. There is a scenario where if the Winnipeg Jets win, and I believe win in OT or in regulation because they've got a significant boost in regulation wins over Vancouver, they would actually end up with a better record than the Canucks and everybody else in the Pacific Division, which would potentially mean home ice advantage if they were fortunate enough to get through the Central and get to the third round. How much do you think that resonates, frankly, with both teams? But we'll focus in on the Jets. I mean, is that something that Rick Bowness might err from resting guys and put out their best foot forward to win? Or I go back and forth on this because I really don't know what the answer is. But I do know that if they got to the third round, they'd love for it to start in Winnipeg, and they'd love to have Game 7 at Canada Life Center.
Well, first of all, we'll start with the end of what you said. How good would that be if there was 2 Canadian teams in the Western Conference Final, Winnipeg and Vancouver? I mean, come on, that would be amazing. But I'm like you, I kind of go back and forth on it. And last night during the broadcast, I said, well, Thursday's game doesn't mean anything. And I literally thought it didn't. Later on, our producer, Kevin Pratt, was kind of texting Kevin and I and laid out what you just said. So I would think that trying to get guys rested and healthy supersedes home ice in the theoretical third round. You'd have to get there first, obviously, but it's it's a decision that has to be made, right? And there's certain guys that, so if you look back to the game in Colorado on Saturday, Monahan and Nemesnikov, I don't think they played in the third period. If they did, they didn't play much. So they're just trying to kind of give them a break. Morgan Barron got hurt last night early, and he didn't come back out. So, you wouldn't think that he would play tomorrow. I guess that's, that question will be put to Rick at some point, but it's a fun scenario to at least think about. So, tomorrow, do we see Miller? Do we see Schmidt? Do we see Kapari and Perfetti get back in, or a mixture of some of those? What's the intensity tomorrow? How much are they talking about what we're talking about? I'm not sure, but it is kind of an underlying storyline as we move ahead.
Well, and on the other side of it, Vancouver, clinched the division yesterday. Edmonton can't catch them. And I mean, the scenario for Vancouver is that would only mean anything if it was Winnipeg going through. I mean, Dallas is the top team. They would have it against Colorado. So I wonder if that's even resonating with Rick Tocchet. An interesting little wrinkle, though, for Game 82, because for the most part, this reminds us of a few other final games of the regular season when the Jets have been destined for the playoffs. This is often a time when, you shut it down and, just try and make sure you get through it healthy and maybe give an opportunity to some younger players that haven't been in the lineup to go in and get one. Overall, though, the focus is going to be on, we're hearing Monday, not official yet, but Game 1 at Canada Life Center. And I imagine you from, listen, just as a hockey fan, we know how special that atmosphere is. But I will say this, I think the Jets, with the way that they played all year long, and especially the finish of this season, are going in on a high. And I'm kind of feeling that in the fan base too. And I'm sure you just being around the city, there really is that level of playoff excitement that frankly you should have when you have a team that has over 50 wins and have done what the Jets have done this year.
No, it's true. And we talked about the fact it's been a special regular season. Just personally, for what this is worth, it's disappointing to me. I have to we don't broadcast the playoffs, so which, we've known for years. So to watch on TV, it's always kind of like a feeling of, what do the kids say? FOMO, fear of missing out, I guess it is. So it's kind of a downer. But just to know, and a couple of friends that I have had texted me, a couple today actually, saying that they got tickets to the street parties and that sort of thing. And even watching on TV, you get a sense of what it's like to be here for playoff games. So we talk about the value of home ice, and if it is indeed an advantage or a decided advantage, well, that's where the fans can come into play, and they're going to be as loud as humanly possible. So it's something that the Jets have earned, right? Even if you just go back to that winless streak, it certainly didn't look like they'd get top two in the Central, but they've done it, and hopefully it will be a home ice advantage, that maybe the noise can rattle the Avalanche. Who knows? That remains to be seen, but it's cool, obviously, for the city too, right? Like, it's going to bring people out and all of those other factors. So it's a great thing.
It is. This is a city that is going to be ready to go. I'm sure the hockey team will be, and I imagine the Colorado Avalanche will be. It'll be much better than they looked like on Saturday, which should set up an amazing series. Dan, listen, congrats on another amazing season behind the booth. I mean, a mainstay amongst Winnipeg Jet fans day in and day out throughout the regular season. We will miss you in the playoffs, but we'll always have time to talk Jets playoffs for you. So maybe if you've got a bit more time, we'll hit you up and you can talk about it with us when you're not doing the TELUS Cup and the WHL playoffs and all of your other duties calling hockey for TSN.
Well, I'll be watching every minute, so if you want to do this again, I'd be glad to do it. It's always fun.
Appreciate you, Dan. Have a great one, and enjoy one more time in the booth for the regular season tomorrow night as the Jets take on the Vancouver Canucks in Game 82.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot.
We're not just for the showboats or the champions. We're here for the good ones. The ones who work hard and show up for others, not to get recognized, but because it's the right thing to do. We'd like to think that our good intentions show up in our beer. We keep working to perfect it, not because we want fame or fanfare, but because you deserve it. 1919, the good you deserve.
All right, lots of love for Dan Robertson in the chat. Thanks for Dan. Yeah, for folks that we were wondering about a couple things, we did talk to Dan this morning before we heard from Rick Bowness as to how they were going to handle tomorrow's game, which does sound like all the scratches from yesterday are going to be playing, and we'll find out about potential Moose call-ups. But the Moose, of course, are playing tonight in Milwaukee, and still could catch Texas and get home ice. So I guess that's sort of in flux right now. We should get some clarity on that a little bit later on. Murat's coming up in just a minute. Do want to thank the great people of Princess Auto for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. See that Princess Auto Zamboni driving around Canada Life Center. Hopefully it's got a couple months left of rotations as we get going on the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Jets, Gold Eyes Bombers, now the home of the Bombers, Princess Auto Stadium, and Winnipeg Sports Talk. And probably most importantly to all of you, the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete those projects on your list for spring or start something new is at Princess Auto. You can pop by, visit them in store, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Proudly founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg is Princess Auto. Our friends at Wallace & Wallace are busy right now getting ready to start installations of new fences for Winnipeggers and Manitobans. When you're thinking fencing, you always think Wallace & Wallace first, the leaders in the industry for over 70 years here in Winnipeg and Manitoba, and of course the leaders in overhead garage doors as well. Key right now, though, is they're going to get very busy is to get those orders in. Installations will be beginning at the end of the month, and probably still a good chance you can get your new fence installed by the end of May or early June if you get that order in right now. Best way is to go to wallacefences.com for more information, or give them a call at 452-2700. to get a quote and estimate, of the Wallace team come out and get that project going so you and your family can spend a great summer on your side of a beautiful brand new fence. I got to give a shout out to our friends at F Apparel. I think we've got an F customer that's just about to come on, picking up a new suit. Of course, F is the spot, guys. If you need to up your menswear game, looking for custom suits made to fit, look amazing. Well, they start at just $400 at F. Also got other things like chinos, golf pants, and custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, ready for you at F Apparel. Great deals for wedding parties. If you're getting married this summer at a wedding party, talk to the guys at F about a 15% discount when you get your suits at F Apparel, as well as a great deal for high school graduates. You can talk to them about that in store. 190 Smith Street downtown. Make an appointment and find out more online at F. That's EPHapparel.com. And a shout out to the gang at Aikens Lake. I know Pitt and the gang all fired up for the Winnipeg Jets playoffs, and also excited to get back out to paradise for another summer at Aikens Lake. If you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing experience for a corporate outing, friends and family trip, or just getting the fellas together for that best few days of the year, Aikens Lake is the spot. You can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg with world-class fishing and even better hospitality from the Terrence family and the Aikens team. Find out more online, aikenslake.com, and you can also hit them up and check out all of their socials at Aikens Lake. All right, fresh off of a pickup at F Apparel, Murat Test joins us now. Murat, what is up, man? How are you?
Oh, I got to unmute him. Sorry, Murat. One sec. Here you go now.
Rainbow. First, you made me commit to an 11 p.m. appearance. Now I show up and you don't even want to hear what I have to say.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
Come on, man. No.
Yeah, 11 p.m. That was an interesting typo. People were like, what the heck? No, it's just an extra 1 p.m. as usual, live on YouTube. How you doing? Great to have you back on the show.
I'm good. And for the record, I don't really get to talk because if you read all of my tweets, I have typos galore. There's some some redos in my world. I'm good. Let me shell a little bit too, because I have just come home from F Apparel, and one of my favorite things that they do, Andrew Parks and his team, they're like, so I'm real jacked on this suit. It's going to be a playoff suit. It's going to be a wedding suit. and I just need like the most basic alteration or what have you. And they always turn those things around real nice. I feel well taken care of. Hopefully we can make the suits debut in time for Winnipeg's home, starting the series at home.
Yeah, and I hope you have to wear it for another 2 months following hockey games. And I'll tell you what, I think the feeling around the city and the chances of that look a lot better right now than certainly where the team was. I mean, just an incredible 180 by this team, Murat, that I think you could say was playing some of their worst hockey during that period on that losing streak coming out of the Eastern road trip, and has completely turned it around since we spoke last. A 3-0 win in Dallas against the Stars, and the 7-0 game that I think people's jaws are still maybe a little wide open on Saturday, and then finishing the job and clinching home ice. That seemed highly unlikely 2 weeks ago, and yet here we are planning for whiteouts in Winnipeg next week.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden these guys can't lose, right? Like they're taking out top teams. They're taking out Seattle. Dallas was probably the most impressive game of the bunch, because I'm kind of with Rick Bowness on the idea that Colorado brought its C game to that 7-0 win. But at the same time, my goodness, to go into those two games and to take Dallas and Colorado out the way that they did, to play the defense that they needed to play. And yeah, everything went right offensively, sure. But you don't get to do that if you haven't defended well as well. And, I've just come before the suit fitting. I was obviously at the optional morning skate, and I was talking to Josh Morrissey there. And one of the things we got into was comparing the sort of playoff runs that these teams have been on, that these Jets have been on. And like one of the things that he said that gives me, I don't know, confidence or hope or inspiration for this group of players is the way that they've done it has been so different this year, focusing on that defensive team game first, some of the adjustments that they've made, some of the different ways that they play and handle different situations. And I found myself obviously he's just a good speaker, but I found myself kind of nodding along, and I'm like, yes, that is the story all in all of the Winnipeg Jets this season.
Listen, we'll get to the playoffs in a minute and maybe the season overall, but coming out of that game last night, there's some interesting tweaks about this game tomorrow, both for the Winnipeg Jets and the Vancouver Canucks. A win over Vancouver would actually place the Jets higher than everybody in the Pacific, which would mean if you were fortunate enough to get to the third round, you would have home ice. Vancouver, for their part, depending on what happens with Dallas tonight, could potentially, if Dallas loses, get the number 1 seed in the West. But Murat, from the sounds of it, certainly from the Winnipeg skate today, that's not really a concern right now. The Winnipeg Jets, they're going to try to be as healthy as possible, particularly after Morgan Barron got nicked up yesterday. Scratches coming in, and I would imagine, what are you hearing? Potential of maybe some AHL call-ups for tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that's what came out of the Rick Bowness conversation with reporters, and I think that it makes sense that some of these guys are part of the long-term planning for the Winnipeg Jets. You've also got veterans too, like a Kyle Capobianco, who was Winnipeg's extra D-man for so much of last season, who had just a spectacular AHL season. I know the Moose were so impressed with how he handled himself, and everybody around that league was impressed with the level of play that he had. Like, there's yet one more, not even just a topic for the future, but sort of a taxi squad type of player, a black ace type of player who has NHL experience and success on that front. So I'm not sure exactly what the details are on that front. To be clear, I was actually talking to Morrissey during the coach's presser, and I'm only catching up after the fact. I still think, I do think that that's really compelling and captivating, because if you look at the organization's approach, you talk about these healthy scratches coming in, and I watch, Gustafsson is skating and Perfetti is skating. All these guys are going to get in. Schmidt and Miller, they're going to get in tomorrow. It's not just about staying healthy. It's about making sure everybody's still a piece of what's going on. That their last game wasn't weeks ago. Their last game was heading into the postseason. I think one of the things that they've done well as a general rule is guys haven't sat for too long. Guys haven't had to feel on the outside looking in for too terribly long this season. If you are sizing up that 2-month playoff run, if I do have to dust that suit off that many times, you're going to need players to be able to step in and play at a high level. And there's something cultural to me about making sure everybody's a piece of things that is a good look heading into the playoffs. And perhaps that Black Ace squad, whether it helps this year or next or some other time. I think culturally that's also a good idea.
Well, and there's absolutely no doubt of what you just said. I mean, if you're going to make a long playoff run, it ain't going to be the same lineup each and every night. We know the wear and tear of one series, never mind 3 or 4 on an NHL team. And there will always be an element of next man up, and you want those next men up to be ready and, to your point, feeling a part of it. And I will agree with you. I think they did a pretty good job of that so far this year. Murat, overall this year, before we get to the playoffs, I mean, we're one more game, and a game that presumably is not really going to be viewed important in the win or loss column. Home ice against Colorado. You know, when you back up, I talked about this with Dan earlier, when you think back to where this team was in the offseason with the Dubois trade and still so much uncertainty, the signings of Hellebuck and Scheifele on Thanksgiving Day, and then getting off to that strong start, establishing a new defensive system that bore so much fruit for the team, ups and downs throughout the year. But, man, 51 wins. A win tomorrow would tie the 17-18 team for 52 wins, the most in franchise history. It really has been, I mean, an incredible season that seemingly everybody from top to bottom in that organization has a piece of.
Yeah, it's just so much. I mean, you know, we go through the ups and downs on this show, right? We talk every week, and, you know, a week ago we were wondering, well, geez, can they find that level of play? And 2 weeks ago it was a different feeling. But if you zoom out and look at the big picture, I mean, just imagine the conversation we were having a year ago today, right? Like all of the trepidation about the Jets' future and where everybody was going. And, you know, Blake Wheeler was still on the team, and Pierre-Luc Dubois was still on the team. And there were so many different scenarios that could face the offseason and even beyond that. You know, without Scheifele, without Hellebuck, this isn't necessarily a playoff team. Like, they might be competing for a spot. They're not having the kind of year that they did. And so for Winnipeg to then go through a really unique negotiation with them, the amount of information shared, that was a big success for the organization. Procedurally, it was a success results-wise because they signed for 7 years each. It also let a lot of different people at different levels of the organization exhale a little bit, because now it's not, we're scrambling to be, I don't want to say relevant, but scrambling to attain a bare minimum quality standard. It's, well, actually, with Connor Hellebuck in goal, that's one of the highest floors of a team you could possibly have. Same with Mark Scheifele coming off the season he had. And I think that was substantial, but it's not enough by itself. A team has to play the right way and do the right things. And when it came to ascending towards top spot in the West, like the Jets did, I go back to a Josh Morrissey quote, and it was heading right into that Christmas holiday, that winter break, when Winnipeg was just running rampant. They were having such success, and I know that they had injuries, and Kyle Connor was hurt at the time. I know that they struggled in certain ways. The power play wasn't scoring, but they were winning. And Josh Morrissey said, well, one of the things that you're probably going to see if that power play does get going, because of how good these guys are and how good they're playing at 5-on-5, is you're going to see Mark Scheifele, Gabriel Velarde, Nikolai Ehlers at that time, et cetera, ascend to the top of the NHL scoring race. Okay, that didn't necessarily happen exactly that way, but the second half of what Morrissey said was, and you know what? These guys are not letting any of the power play struggle slip into the 5-on-5 team game. And I've thought about that quote so many times. I've thought about the standard that it set. I know Winnipeg came off of that. There was, you know, a couple months of uncertainty. Are they at that level? Are they not? But the level never dropped below a certain threshold, and I think they found, again, what they need to do. The quality of team has improved. Their ability to weather storms has improved. Their ability to, I mean, every team struggles, and they did struggle, but their ability to right the ship, or at least to get through those situations with less pain and less damage and more on the same boat and more compete and a quicker bounce back has improved. Call it Hellebuck, call it finishing. I call it a very good team heading into the playoffs with a lot of confidence.
The team also seems a lot more honest with itself than maybe this team had been in the past. And I think about, and I think I give a ton of the credit to Adam Lowry, the leader that he's been, kind of being upfront. And we heard him speak towards the end of that 6-game losing streak about everybody needing to be better, the conversations they had within. And Kyle Connor spoke after the game yesterday and talked about where they were at that point. And, some frank conversations that everyone needed to be better, improve in particular areas. And they've done exactly that, Murat. I mean, the turnaround, of an individual like Kyle Connor from, a real slump that he was in about a month ago or 3 weeks ago to where he's at right now. And I got to tell you, I totally understand why all the articles were written and the conversations were had on this program and around of, the top line and Kyle Connor and Ehlers. And it kind of became like sort of a Connor versus Ehlers thing. And then you look at a game like last night where Kyle Connor scores twice, Ehlers scores his 25th of the year with 0 on the power play and sets up the power play winner. I don't think you could have a better sign that both of those guys are really going and producing right now, right before they're going to be leaned on for the most important time of the year.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. It doesn't have to be either or, right? If both lines are going and you have Adam Lowry's line, then all of a sudden the Winnipeg Jets can hit you wave after wave after wave, and that's a tough team to defend against. I think there was some consternation about the Connor Scheifele-Vilardi trio and their ability to control the play and defend against top teams and all that sort of stuff. And, I don't think Kyle Connor is going to be a Selke favorite or anything to that effect. But I'm glad that he's on an 8-game point streak right now, because he's had, since that second line demotion and back, he's had some step in his game, and he's had some speed and some aggression, and he drove some offense from that second line spot before he was promoted again. Nikolai Ehlers scoring again. Nikolai Ehlers' 25th goal, and that on the power play is kind of a unique stat as well. I mean, if this is the bet, and it is, this is the bet, Rick Bowness will use Connor, Scheifele-Vilardi. The second line will be this Monahan, Toffoli, Ehlers line that's really been going, and Adam Lowry will play the checking shutdown. He should get some Selke votes, by the way, role. Well, then you need those top two lines to go and to produce and to create. And for Kyle Connor to pop 2 at 5-on-5 in the midst of an 8-game point scoring streak, looking more dangerous, looking more likely to create and bury and finish, I mean, that is a good version of the Winnipeg Jets. That's one that you can believe in. If that offense goes away, then okay, then we can pick at the defense a little bit more again. But I think that they're going. I think that there's swagger. I love when Kyle Connor talks about the complete team game and the mature game, and I love when you see results on all lines.
Well, and I mean, listen, the points obviously is Kyle Connor's specialty. But the issues with that line was often in their own end. And to your point, he's never going to be up for a Selke trophy. But Bones talked about it last night, talked about how engaged he's been. And I'll say this, the attention to detail, the work ethic, the drive in both ends, I think, is evident. And I think that speaks to the sense of urgency this team took coming out of that losing streak onto the road, running the gauntlet of the Central Division. And when you do that and get the results, it breeds more success moving forward. And that's exactly where you want to be as a team going into a series against a beast like the Avalanche.
You're starting to see those goals that get scored that are the product of consecutive lines, right? Like Mark Scheifele was in the middle of a line change the other night, not last night, but when he was on the ice, and was it Nikolai Ehlers who scored or who passed it across? I'm a little under the weather, not sleeping so great, so the memory is gone. But the Jets are starting to score those transitional goals right now, where one line puts on the pressure, the other one is getting out there against a tired group, and now that they're creating and scoring, and like that type of sequential play, when other teams don't get breaks, when there isn't an exhale moment for them, is the suffocating stuff of Winnipeg's very best games this year. So that is, it's sort of a rising tide floats all boats kind of scenario for the Winnipeg Jets. And man, like when you see, I think Mark Scheifele is such a driver on that top line. I know we're talking about Kyle Connor a lot, but I think when you see Mark Scheifele play that well, when you see that second line go that well, when you when you don't even have to ask the question about Adam Lowry's line on any given night, you can imagine, okay, well, Colorado's good beyond Nathan MacKinnon, but let's make no mistake, MacKinnon is on another echelon all by himself. Can Colorado do that to Winnipeg? Maybe. But when Winnipeg's on the top of its game, you can believe it's going to do that, and it's going to suffocate Colorado for stretches of play. And that is what gives you belief. It's not just going to be a goaltending thing. Maybe the Jets can control a lot of the play if they're at the top of their game.
Well, I mean, let's get to the playoffs in this series. And I'm sure from the writer's point of view, you love the fact that you've got clarity on who the team is playing and who's got home ice. You can kind of get working on really diving into this matchup. We know the Avalanche are going to be a favorite, despite finishing below the Jets in the standings and being swept in the season series. But when you look to a potential, no longer potential, to an inevitable matchup in a best-of-7, Murat, what stands out between the two teams as to what could be difference-making parts of both clubs right now? And maybe advantages for either team when it comes to the head-to-head matchup that'll be determined over 7.
Yeah, for me, I start with the best skater on the ice, and that's got to be Nathan MacKinnon. There are a few players in the world who can take over a game.
It might be Makar.
Maybe, yeah. I have what a delightful problem to have, right? Picking your best skater. But for me, I have Nathan MacKinnon's name circled. I think Winnipeg's handling of him is going to run through Adam Lowry as much as possible and Morrissey DeMello as much as possible as well. If you're the Colorado Avalanche and you've got this great weapon, right? I think your best play, knowing you if you're getting away from Lowry, you're getting Scheifele or someone else, is to run that power versus power matchup. Admit that Connor and Scheifele and Velarde might make you pay at 5-on-5 sometimes, but if you're looking at a line that has a little bit of less defensive acumen, that's the one. You want to go at them. Well, Colorado's tried to do that through 3 regular season games. Obviously, they only had home ice in 2 of them. Am I blanking already? Two of the 3. 2 of the 3. But that's what they're aiming for. So the bet is, can MacKinnon outscore Scheifele so substantially that any other advantages that Winnipeg has, aren't enough to make it up? And so far, the answer to that is no, which is shocking in a way because MacKinnon's that good. It says a lot of really good things about the best goaltender in the world, Connor Hellebuyck, who happens to be a Winnipeg Jet. It also speaks to Winnipeg's commitment to defending against a top player like that. That, for me, if Winnipeg ends up splitting the MacKinnon minutes between Lowry and Scheifele, and Scheifele's line goes toe-to-toe with MacKinnon's and doesn't get blown up, I think the rest of things will take care of themselves, because that will mean they're playing a really good 5-on-5 team game. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but Winnipeg is a deep, deep team up front. And Colorado's made some upgrades there, but I think Winnipeg's depth is a little bit superior. And that's the one thing that I'm looking at. I know everybody's going to point to goaltending, and I'm happy to talk about that too. But I think that's the number one key swing thing in the series.
Well, and listen, I'm with you in that. And I think that, this late run by the Jets to get home ice, I've sort of been saying on the show, and listen, maybe this is just taking advantage of the situation, but from a Jets perspective, I think the home ice advantage means more in this series than it might be in other matchups. I mean, partly because of what you just said with when we've seen Jared Bednar. I mean, they're throwing 29 out when the 55 line is out there. That is what they want. Rick Bowness wants Adam Lowry. I think that's significant to have 4 games, a potential 7th game if it is, to have that last change is important. The other thing is the Avalanche were the best team on home ice in the National Hockey League this year and were not particularly special on the road.
Yeah, exactly. Best team at home on ice and then so on the road. Imagine. And that, I mean, for so much of the season, and it's tough in an analysis of the Avalanche to guess who are they for real, right? Because for a while their secondary scoring was so bad. It was such a trouble spot for them. I mean, Ryan Johansson was not the guy, for example, and they tried a few different iterations of things to get scoring underneath that top line that excels and dominates, and they didn't necessarily have a solution for so long. Then trade deadline comes in. Casey Middlestad's a heck of a player, right? And he wasn't there for this full season. Brandon Duheim to add, Yakov Trenin to add in the bottom six as well. That changes things. That does improve that team, and it makes them more versatile and less dependent on making sure that McKinnon exploits his minutes. And I think that that's one of the things that you see. I mean, we talk about the Winnipeg Jets home ice advantage in terms of fans and what have you, but if you're not a one-line team, but if you've got one line that's just supernova caliber, those matchups are going to matter so much compared to other teams. So I think Colorado's better than that now, but also I think that matchups matter for that team. Another thing to talk about, too, if you're talking about those matchups, it's not just center versus center. It's going to be wingers versus wingers. And when you have Nathan McKinnon attacking with that kind of speed, it creates a second wave opportunity. And we know Cale Makar is he the best in the world at being a second wave offensive player? Maybe he is. Quinn Hughes, great season too. I mean, there's Josh Morrissey in the conversation in maybe the 4 or 5 hole. Like, there are some second wave offensive opportunities that open up. Who's going to keep pace with that? So Morrissey and DeMello are going to have a tough job to do. Mark Scheifele is going to have a tough job to do in that situation. But what are Winnipeg's wingers capable of? Not just F1 back, but the second forward back, the third forward back, the players playing off the puck, who's going to get that weak side defenseman cruising down, looking for that second wave of opportunity. There are going to be so many intense moments within that matchup where it's not just centers and defensemen and then Connor Hellebuck at the end of the day. There's going to be importance on Kyle Connor and Gabriel Velarde to weather that storm. And I think that's another reason why this last week or so of improved play, not perfect play, but really improved play from those guys gives you a little bit more hope yet if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan.
Well, certainly the game on Saturday, I think, gave a lot. And listen, the conversations are very different in Denver right now. I mean, anyone, and I see some folks that have been, poking around listening to some of the Avalanche coverage. I mean, they had that, 8 or 9 game heater. Since then, they've won 3 of their last 9 games. They have, they lost in spectacular fashion in a game that going in, everyone in the organization, players, coaches said this was the biggest game of the year. We're a great home team. We want home ice, and we know where that is. And to finish off with the matchups and goaltending, we know what Connor Hellebuck brings to the table. We know how great Brossoit's been this year. Georgiev, to his credit, leads the league in wins with 38. But that goaltending tandem looked pretty darn spooked on the weekend, and that's not a good thing to be dealing with, I guess, as you get into Game 83.
100%. That's the X factor, we'll call it. I think Connor Hellebuck is going to be one of the most fascinating stories of this series because on paper he's the best goaltender of the 4 available. First of all, on paper he's the best goaltender in the world right now. Second of all, right? Like, if this guy doesn't win the Vezina Trophy, some people have voted wrong, is my opinion. And if he doesn't get Hart votes, some people have voted wrong. He's been that good. But he's such, reputation-wise, I think you watch his style, and it's so patient, it's so calm, it's angles, it's position, it's mental reads, the way that he reads the play and makes the correct bet on where that puck is going to go. When he's a highlight reel Connor Hellebuck save is calmness and patience, and the puck hits him and you think, oh God, that must have been easy. Well, there's actually a brain moving quicker than the play that's read the play and made the right decisions about it. And then, of course, all the physical mechanics that go into it, and it adds up to the best goaltending results on the planet. But I think his reputation is hurt almost because he's less spectacular athletically than some other goaltenders. His reputation is also hurt by the fact that LB beat him in the playoffs last year. His reputation is hurt by a couple of puck-handling gaffes going back as far as Vegas 2018, where it seemed like once a playoff round, there was going to be a giveaway that turned into a frightening goal against. But if you go through his level of performance, and like even last series against Vegas, you go through the pucks that actually went in, and you look at the deflections, you look at all the different things that happened to lead to LB having a superior save percentage, you're like, actually, Connor Hellebuck played that moment really well. And yet I think he has some reputational things to overcome, even in this market that knows how good he's been. I don't know if we fully appreciate how great he's been. And to have that player with something to prove, be your X factor and be at the top of his game and be the best goaltender in the world this year, if a goalie decides this series, I mean, it's probably going to be him, right? And that's an advantage, Winnipeg, to not have to even worry about that.
No, you're right. You're right. And listen, I'm glad you brought up puck handling. I've been meaning to mention this on the show. I've had plenty of off-air conversations with friends and Jets fans about it. The turnaround in Connor Hellebuck's puck handling game has not been mentioned enough, and I'll put my hand up for being guilty of that as someone that drives a lot of these conversations on this show. I think back to our pal Mitch in chat, who 2 years ago changed his YouTube name to Helly's Shock Collar. And we had the running joke that the coach would have a shock collar for Helly, and the minute he tried to go to play the puck, they'd zap him to come back in because they were so afraid of what's happened. I don't know whether he spent the entire offseason working on it, but I mean, I think fans will agree. There was a time when Helly left the net to play the puck, everyone was on pins and needles. It has been night and day. He has been so much better. And we talk about working on things to improve it, to improve your performance. That has been a part of his development into a guy that's winning another Vezina that I don't think we've talked about at all, to be honest, that I think is another big part of just a guy showing an example of doing everything he can to make himself the best he can be and help the team win games. But would you agree that it's night and day as to where it was a couple years ago even?
Yeah, I would say these last 2 years have been an enormous step forward in that regard. And it's one of those things too, like when players arrive amongst the best in the world and, you know, their homework doesn't stop. The idea of getting even better doesn't stop. Like Josh Morrissey has his huge breakout 76-point season. He didn't just phone it in and be like, hey, there are no ways in which I can get better. Connor Hellebuck is one of the most cerebral guys that you'll know, and he is pursuing things as well. I want to check my memory against this, and I wonder what the chat thinks. I wonder what you think. For me, a big part of it is just doing it less often. Like, I think he's having more success when he does leave his net and play the puck. I think that that's real. I also think that the frequency with which he tries to go out and make those plays has decreased. He's almost picking his spots a little bit better. But I don't know if that's true or just something I feel, because my memory can't point to any moments of tremendous chaos, or at least fewer of them of late than say 2 or 3 years ago. The other thing I'll say, like, the Winnipeg Jets for the last 2 seasons as a team have been better than before, than especially the year 3 seasons ago where they missed the playoffs. And, you know, we all know, maybe we are this person, but we all know somebody in conversation where when there's like an awkward silence, they're the first to fill it. It's like, you know, that makes you uncomfortable, so you do something. I think that there are people who, when nothing is being done to solve a problem, are people of action, and they want to go and do something as well. I think on some of those chaotic Winnipeg Jets teams, Connor Hellebuck may have tried to take breakouts into his own hands a couple of times that would have been ill-advised, just because he's trying to be out there doing something, being a solution. And I see less of that. I don't know if I'm reaching too far. But
I think there's something to be said for that. Hey, before we go, you mentioned Josh Morrissey. He had the breakout career year for some, according to some, last year. I know the points aren't in the 70s again this year, but I think if I had to say, I think he may have had a better season this year. Where are you at on just Josh Morrissey's season overall, compared to the ascension to being one of the top in the league last season?
Zero doubt in my mind. Josh Morrissey had a better season this year with fewer points than he did last season. Not even close. Not even
agreed.
Not even a question to me. And I look at the even strength power play split. Sure, the Jets power play struggled at certain times, and he's on it and he's a part of it and all that sort of stuff. But his ability to control a game at 5-on-5 offensively, with that move he does at the offensive blue line, the reads that he makes, like, he knows exactly when his moments are and when they're not. And he knows if he's making that play at the offensive blue line where he's beating that forechecker and he's going to step into the space behind him and go on the attack, well, he pulls that off because he knows where everybody is on the ice. The reads he's making are even better this year than they were last year. His control of the puck defensively has improved as well. I'm going to say that his defensive metrics have improved from last year to this year at 5-on-5 as well. you're not looking at him as a poor man's Carlson, which is a disservice to him to say that, actually, defensively, where it's all offense, no defense. This guy has been, for this season, a force in both respects. I think offense is still his biggest strength, but he controls the game, and the subtlety to the decisions he makes based on score, based on feel, based on teammates, based on opposition. I think that he's taken his mental game to another level as well. And I think that he's Winnipeg's best skater. And I think that I used to make that debate with Scheifele, with other players, depending on what was going on. I think that Josh Morrissey has been that good that it's not really a question to me anymore. And credit to him for that.
No doubt about it. What's cooking in the Athletic? I imagine the entire Athletic team getting ready for a ton of content as we get close to dropping the puck on the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, it's exciting. Dom and company do one of my favorite previews series, like in all of hockey writing. I really like looking at the way they set things up. I know Jets fans are poking at Dom and Shayna and Sean for not giving the Jets their due, but it's a really thorough look. If you want more of a Jets perspective, I'll give it to you because I'll be previewing the series as well separately. I'm sure you've seen my player poll, which has been a ton of fun. I've got 2 more stories on that. Some pranks, some Hellebuck antics, some of the real good stuff. It's been so fun to try to connect readers to the people behind the players heading into what could be a long playoff run. I'm really excited about it. Certainly, I got to turn the conversation I just had with Josh Morrissey into a feature story. There's something real special there. It's the most wonderful time of year, and I'm having a great time doing it. I couldn't be more excited at this moment. That's for sure.
Well, fired up for next week. It'll be fun to talk to you about the first couple games of the playoffs between the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche, and I can't wait to dive into all of that over the next few days before we drop the puck in the Athletic. Murat, thanks for doing this. Have a great one.
Thank you. You too, Huss. Thank you.
There is Murat Atesh at WPG Murat. And again, if you're not subscribing to The Athletic, now would be a good time to change that just in time for the playoffs. Just off of what we were just talking about, I'm interested to see what people think. Let's take Connor Hellebuck out of the equation. And when we talk about the skaters, and again, our focus is all going to be on the playoffs moving forward. But for this regular season, if you had to decide between Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey for MVP or most valuable skater, who do you have? Is it 44 or 55? That's today's Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Let us know who, if it was up to you, if you were the tie-breaking vote, because I think the vote will be very close. We saw how important Scheifele was to the Jets when he wasn't in the lineup. And Josh Morrissey pretty much does everything for this team right now and is going to be front and center and logging a lot of ice time. Who you got in that matchup? Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp? All right, we're going to talk to Nic Demski coming up in just a couple minutes. And hopefully we're putting off golf and tee times for the Jets for quite a while. The good news is, for the rest of us, golf season is pretty much here, at least just around the corner. Cannot wait to get out to Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club this year. Planning on actually doing a show at Breezy coming up next month for a Manitoba golf event with our old pal Brian Munns. If you want to find out more about one of Winnipeg's top private clubs and getting on the waiting list for future years, or certainly using Breezy and their wonderful facilities for an event such as a wedding, go to breezybend.ca. And to everyone out at Breezy, we will see you on the links this summer. With the playoffs starting next week, everybody getting ready to put the whites on. And if you are needing to up your white game in time for Game 1 and Game 2, get on down to Royal Sports right now. The last 2 weeks, they've had a ton of playoff merch come in, all in white. They've got white overalls, white fan chains, hats, jerseys, everything you need to finish your fit for Canada Life Centre, the Whiteout Street Parties, and more as the Jets take on the Colorado Avalanche in the playoffs. And in addition to everything for the Jets playoffs, soccer, baseball, softball, tennis, running, and more. New stock arriving daily at Winnipeg's true sports superstore, Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. And of course, you can follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drop, sale information, and a whole bunch of the white. There, as you can see, the overalls, the shirts, it's all coming in right now. And it's all ready for you Jet fans to get set up and ready to rock for next week, likely Monday night, although we're still waiting for confirmation on that. And hey, I mean, both for the home games sold out, for games on the road, no better place to get together with your gang than your local Boston Pizza. Boston Pizza, your road and home Jets headquarters, pick-a-player games, ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and the big game on all of the screens with big sound every night when the Winnipeg Jets play. Start making plans to get to BP for the Stanley Cup playoffs, both when the Jets are playing and, of course, all the other series that are going to be beginning this weekend in the National Hockey League. All right, we are going to do Coolbet lines a little bit later on. Couple of interesting matchups tonight, still with some effect on the postseason. But right now, let's catch up with Nic Demski. He's had a pretty wild offseason. Looking forward to the upcoming year with the blue and gold and coming back from some world travels. Nic Demski now on WST. What's going on? How are you?
Not bad. Yeah. I mean, it definitely has been a busy offseason. I think I've been on more flights than I have been at home. So, yeah, it's been good, though. Honestly, just how busy I've been, especially, having the daughter as well. Got to really basically just stay under the roof when I am home in the gym and just take the most of that time. And then yeah, I've been all over the place, so it's been good though.
Yeah, early dad life. No wonder you're taking the advantage to maybe get away a little bit, just to give yourself a moment. Listen, we'll talk about the upcoming season in a second. I did see that you and your teammate Sergio Castillo were up in northern Manitoba on a Bombers junket. I know firsthand how impactful that can be for those northern communities. What was that experience like, Nic?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, the kids were pumped up. The first school that we went to was all classes like from grade 1 to 5, I believe. So they're all fired up to do some football drills and stuff like that. And again, you see some pretty good athletes out there. There's a lot of basketball players that move well, who don't really know too much about football. They know about the Bombers, but they've never really played football. There's no football team up there in Thompson. So, that's something that the Bombers are going to have to work on, getting that stuff out there. And then we went to middle school after that. That was grade 6, 7, and 8. And yeah, that was good too. A lot of good athletes, a lot of good kids, and they're just pumped up and to have some Bombers in the house, and they took the coaching well, and it was a lot of fun.
It's really cool to see the outreach of the football team throughout the province, and I know you've been a big part of that. But your work in the community beyond Winnipeg, just really starting there. CFL last season launched a partnership with World Vision Canada. You are one of the CFL ambassadors, and that set up a pretty wild experience for you, going all the way overseas to the Philippines. I mean, fill us in on your work with World Vision and what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild, honestly. It's funny because I got a call last season just asking if this is something I'd be interested in doing, and they said, there might be a trip that we're trying to get together, and about 2 months before we actually took flight, they came back to us and were like, okay, we got the trip ready to go. Are you still able to do it? And it was just pretty crazy. We got 2 options to go to Philippines or to Kenya. I've never been to either places. I've never been to Africa, or I've never been to Asia. So to me, it was almost like a flip of the coin. I kind of do, embrace Philippine culture a little bit more just because of their food. Honestly, I'm a big cook. I love to chef it up. So
hey, you're from Winnipeg too. I mean, we got a massive Filipino community. You get exposed to that good stuff here.
So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a guy that just goes in blind and just kind of takes the punches as they come. I'm not too big of a planner. I'm not too big of a type A personality type, I guess if you will. So I just went over there with my expectations, at a pretty balanced, and went over there. We landed in Manila first, and then we went to this town called Naga City. And Naga City, I remember because I was super jet lagged. And so all the people, because I came out there, a day later. So I came out there a day later than everybody. And everybody, was kind of caught up. Some people were still tired, though. And so they're all talking about going to the mall just to stay up and just to do something before we start our actual community outreach. And so I remember this was my first taste of, because I was just stuck in Manila. I didn't go outside the airport. I had to catch a direct flight, a connecting flight to Naga City. So I didn't see any of the Philippines. And Naga City is a pretty small town, very rural. It's almost like, I'm not going to say it's like Brandon, but I guess, Manila's Winnipeg, Naga City would be Brandon. It's not as big of a city, more Euro, more remote. And we go to the mall, and we're literally walking through the mall, and I see people kind of stop and stare at me. It's is this who is this and why is this guy here? But that's how it was in that city. There was not really any foreigners. There's no really black or white people. It was all Filipino people. And, anytime we'd walk by them, I mean, I'm not even the tallest guy, but I would look like an NBA player. And you'd hear some whispers oh, basketball player, or, and then we also had Reggie Beggleton with us. He's 6'2". So they'd be looking at him like he's a giant. It was just kind of funny just to see the type of culture over there. And just, you could really tell they haven't seen anybody who really looks like me outside of probably, television.
The World Vision, I mean, it looks to, transforms the lives of children in some of these developing countries. What did you guys do while you were there? What was that experience like? And as far as just about the charity and the purpose of the entire trip, how much did that sort of resonate you? I mean, a lot of times you get involved in that stuff and you feel pretty lucky about, where we live and what we've got going on here.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you know what? The first thing I'll say about over there in the Philippines is that they're just so welcoming. They just want to embrace you. They want to show you their culture. They're so excited to have foreigners there. And then, when you tell them that they're part of World Vision, there's always a mutual story of, one of their families to be a beneficiary or one of their, nephews that is, within the World Vision program. So just to see the support that they have for foreigners and people that want to come out and help them and lend a helping hand, and to see the support that they have for World Vision, just really resonates with you how much World Vision really does. And it really is a different country. I mean, I wish I was here with you right now so I could show you some photos of where we were, but, it's definitely poverty stricken. But you talk to the people there, and you ask them what their worst fear is. Is it the drugs? Is it the gang violence? Is it, rapes? What's the kind of biggest thing being a parent and having a kid where you guys are from? And they say it's really the floods. The floods can take out a whole community like no tomorrow. And their biggest thing is rebuilding their homes. A lot of their homes they build up from scratch. It's part of their legacy. It's part of their drop down to families. A lot of the homes would be, my grandparents built this home. They dropped it down to me, and I'm going to drop it down to my kids. And just to see that kind of culture out there. And as I said, they're super hospitable. They want to show you their home. They want to bring you in. They want to tell you about their experiences. But when you go into their home, I mean, some of the homes that I was in was the size of my bathroom. So it's crazy how they have so much pride about something that, honestly, people up here in North America would kind of just be rolling their eyes at, but they take so much pride in what they have and the resources that they have and how they use them. And, it really is an uplifting thing to see people like that in their situation have so much hope and to see what World Vision can do. So World Vision, what they do for them is they either have sponsor childs or they have their beneficiary families, and they also have catalogs. So there's even some entrepreneurs out there who would have pig farms. So you could go on a catalog and you can buy a family, a couple pigs, so they can get started in their family business. Or, you could sponsor children to go to school, so then they have school supplies, or they can pay their tuition bills. So, yeah, World Vision does a lot for people out in the Philippines, and they do a lot of helpful stuff as well.
We'll actually throw the link for World Vision, how you can find out more help, in the description of today's video, and we'll throw it out in the chat as well. You mentioned that the deal breaker between Kenya and Philippines was the food. Was the food did it deliver?
The food was on point. You know, it's funny because like when I got out there, we had like a little meeting, lunch meeting, and I was just kind of, you know, so since I was the last one there, everybody was together, so they kind of gave us all the information. And the first thing that got put in front of my face was a mango smoothie, and I remember Tim White looking at me saying, "That's going to be the best smoothie that you've ever had." And I took a sip, and I'm like, "Dude, this is the best smoothie I've ever had." Like the fruit out there is next to like, oh, it's insane. I mean, you know, being in Canada, of course, you know, you're going to get some seasons of good fruit, but out there, you know, they say, you know, that's what they live by, their fruit, their coconuts, all the fresh stuff out there. And, you know, it definitely did not disappoint.
Nic Demski's with us from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. A very busy off season up in northern Manitoba with World Vision in the Philippines. Just about time to get back to work. What's the group chat like right these days with the fellas looking ahead to the season?
Everybody's pumped up, man. I mean, you know, the front office did a good job getting a lot of key pieces back. Of course, you know, within the business, you're going to lose some guys, and you know, some of those guys definitely will hurt. But at the end of the day, that's a business we signed up for. So, you know, we all just talk about it, how we got to move on, and how certain people got to step up, fill the roles, and how everybody's, you know, role has to get a little bit bigger. So, I mean, we're pumped up for it, man. You know, it's going to be another challenge. You know, I feel like in free agency this year, kind of, you know, the West and the East, the East definitely got better, and I feel like the talent in the West kind of spread out a little bit. So it's definitely going to be a competitive season, and, you know, I can't wait for it.
From a Bomber perspective, I mean, certainly it's, you know, one of the leaders of the offense. You had to be looking at, you know, how is this group going to look like next year when we knew that it was going to be incredibly tough to sign Brady and Dalton. And the fact that Kyle and his team was able to get both of them back, I imagine even for you guys, you may have been hopeful, but probably not expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to them throughout the offseason, kind of talking with them throughout the whole process. And so I definitely stayed optimistic because, I mean, they're staying optimistic. You know, they both wanted to be back, but they also both wanted to kind of see what was out there as well. But when push came to shove, I mean, you know, Kyle in the front office, they did a lot of great stuff to be able to get them back. And Brady and Dalton definitely, you know, took a little bit less to stay here as well. You know, I think they knew that the grass wasn't going to be greener on the other side. Both of them are playmakers, and both of them are game changers, but they wanted to be here where they belong, back in Winnipeg. So I'm happy they made the decision, and I'm happy that the front office made it work.
No, you're a hometown guy. I mean, this is your home, but it's really cool to see how many more of your teammates are spending a lot more time in the offseason here in Winnipeg. You were just saying there's a pretty good group of dudes that have been around here for the majority of the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a great core group. Some guys have even been a little bit in and out too. But yeah, it's been a great group, and you know, that just, you know, helps you become motivated and want to work harder and want to work with the guy next to you. You know, it's been awesome. It's not like you know, we got guys like Willie Jefferson staying year round. We got guys like Kenny Lawler staying year round. Myself, Brady just came back from Bali not too long ago. He's here back to the grind now. And then you know, you got guys like Shane Gauthier and Tanner Cadwallader and special team guys like that who are staying here all year round. Nick Hallett, Noah Hallett. So all guys that are familiar with the facility, but also want to be part of the city or be part of the community out here in Winnipeg too. So it's a lot of good things that you see, and you know, it just makes us that much closer and bond that much more.
Well, I tell you what, it's always cool to hear, you know, players from the Bombers, especially someone like you that represents this city in so many ways, doing great things in the community, whether it be here in northern Manitoba, here in Winnipeg, or all the way over in the Philippines with World Vision. Nic, great to have you back on the program. Enjoy the but by the way, you ready for some playoff hockey next week when the Jets get at it, going to pull the Whites out?
Seeing some big wins, so I'm pumped up. Yeah, this was probably honestly the year that I went to most Jets games that I've been. So I've been to 3. They were 2-1 in the 3 games I went to. But, I mean, they look like a good team. And even just, you know, getting Monahan and Toffoli and players like that to make this playoff push, I mean, I'm pumped up about it. So I can't wait to put the white jersey on.
Well, it's going to be fun. I mean, NHL playoffs starting next week, and it won't be long before we're at Princess Auto Stadium, seeing what the Bombers have to try and make it. Would be 5 Western Division titles in a row? The bar's set high, Nic.
It sure is. No, it would be 4. It would be 4 since 2021, 22, 23, and then hopefully 24. So it'll be 4 in a row. But 5 in a row Grey Cup appearances. That's what we're going for. And this time we're going to finish it right.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, you have a great one. Congratulations on everything you're doing, and thanks again for jumping on. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Oh, man, great stuff with Nic Demski, and really cool to hear what he's been doing in our community. And, man, that stuff with World Vision, really, really awesome as well. Cannot wait for the upcoming season. We'll see you all at Princess Auto Stadium coming up in it's actually an exhibition game at the end of May. And then June, it's on. Let's go. But first and foremost, our focus is on the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's get to these Coolbet lines. We've got a lot to get to. First off, for tonight's games, the Penguins are out thanks to that empty netter last night. Pittsburgh minus 127 favorites at the Islanders. Islanders plus 108. Islanders booked for the playoffs. Pittsburgh playing for next year. Sid's going hard right till the final buzzer. I like Pittsburgh tonight. Leafs and Lightning playing. The money line on this one is Lightning minus 144, Leafs plus 123. They both know their playoff matchups. The only thing that people are considering is Austin Matthews tonight. Will he get goal number 70? Matthews to score minus 132. And the shot prop probably might be worth it as well. Wow, this has gone crazy. When we did the lock shop earlier today, it was minus 125. There's been a lot of money coming in on the over because it's now minus 182. I think you may have missed your window if you wanted to bet that earlier today. Dallas and St. Louis. Dallas can clinch the 1 seed in the West with a win over the Blues. They're minus 245 favorites. St. Louis plus 205. And then Remis, the final Coyotes game. And the Coyotes were plus 154 earlier. They're now plus 144. Edmonton has nothing to play for. Back-to-back games. We haven't heard officially who's in and out for Edmonton, but I don't think they'll be particularly motivated to win. And did I hear correctly the Coyotes are telling people to wear white for the final fight? Sounds familiar to a certain team in 1996 that became the Coyotes.
Yeah, this Coyotes thing, not surprising that they're finally moving, but it seems very surreal that it happened a week ago. We've been talking about them going for so long, and it's just going to be like snap of the fingers. They're gone. So I'm going to be tuned into that game. It'll be on Sportsnet. I might try to watch the Coyotes. Find a way to get the Coyotes broadcast, but I'm going to check in on that PHNX channel. We had Steve on yesterday. If you missed,
he was awesome. Lots of great feedback on that interview as well.
If you missed yesterday's show, go to part 2 on YouTube or on the podcast with Steve Peters from PHNX, longtime video coach with the Coyotes, and I had a lot to say about them moving. And it's gonna be crazy. I mean, the full circle with the Doan thing is the craziest part. With Shane, my God, here and Josh there. I'm curious if Edmonton's going to put an effort in on this one. They just pumped the Sharks 9-2. Didn't even try in the third period. The only person trying was Warren Fogle to get the hat trick. McDavid, he didn't play a couple games leading into last game. Is he going to be playing? They barely played him too. He played 15 minutes because they were up. He got his 100th assist, and that was basically it. So I would take.
It'll be interesting if he even plays. I mean,
I haven't seen, and for the Tampa Toronto game, I think Tampa wants to rest guys, but I don't know if they really are in position to. So there might be a short bench, something to watch there. So I think Matthews guaranteed to get number 70. But this, I'm gonna tune in and go with the Coyotes. Why not? The feel good story. If you want to go point, I like Nick Schmaltz. He's been top line.
Clayton
top
Keller.
power play.
He's been their guy for a long time. What's a Keller goal tonight? Maybe we'll sprinkle on that as well. We're going to get to the series odds in just a minute. But we did put together a little lock shop partner parlay today. A Matthews goal. Pittsburgh to win in in Dallas. Pittsburgh and Dallas on the money line. It was plus 340 when we made it, boosted up to plus 385. So that is in the Coolbet exclusives. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, what are you waiting for? Use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. We also did our golf picks today. Check out today's lock shop for that. Spoiler alert, we love Ludwig Oberg this week at the RBC, but we did do a lock shop partner parlay for that. Oberg top 10, Matthew Fitzpatrick and Corey Connors both top 20. That one's 11-1. That's in the golf boosted odds. Pat's got a whole bunch of others as well. Greggy Golf Special and some other exclusives that you can jump on if you would like to before the event. And it does sound like Scotty Scheffler's playing. He's, of course, the favorite at plus 450 as the clear runaway number one player on the planet right now. Scotty Scheffler, although we'll see how burnt he is from another green jacket on the weekend. But back to the NHL. We've got some series prices, and let's play guess the lines here. Reem, don't click on them. Okay. I've seen this first one, Boston and Toronto. What do you think Boston and Toronto will be? Series price.
Boston minus 120.
Pretty close. Boston minus 125.
Oh, that was pretty close. I'll take it.
Leafs plus 105. So nicely done.
Okay, nice.
All right, I haven't seen this one. Canes and Islanders.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Islanders minus 210. Canes minus 210, Islanders plus 190.
Yeah, I was going to say Canes minus 200. I don't know what it is.
Whoa.
What is it?
Minus 357 for the Canes and the
wild.
Islanders plus 275. I guess when you consider it, the Canes one of the top teams and favorites. Islanders at a minus 18 goal differential. Probably don't get in if they're in the other conference. So that might be the most lopsided. Now, what about the Panthers and Lightning?
I'm going Panthers minus 135.
I'm going to go Panthers minus 170.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I think there'll be a little bit more. Let's see. Oh, Panthers minus 172.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Lightning plus 145.
There you go.
That's a dub for me. And now the Rangers and the Caps. This is interesting. The Caps, I can't believe they're even in the playoffs. Rangers won the President's Trophy. They were 2-2 in the regular season. But after seeing that Carolina line, I'm thinking we're probably looking at something similar in like the minus 340 range.
Yeah, like minus 400. Like, what is it going to be? Something ridiculous.
Oh, it's minus 455.
Oh, my God.
They're an even bigger favorite.
That's crazy.
Well, those first two series in the East, not a lot of drama, although there's always a big one. And now, Jets, Colorado. I'd said my prediction was Colorado minus 130, Jets plus 110. And it's Jets plus 110, Colorado minus 132. So there you go. Jets are underdogs, despite having more points, despite having home ice advantage, despite sweeping the season series. And that's fine with us. If you want to get in on the Jets right now, we'll see whether that line changes very much. Because let's face it, Colorado has the star power. They won the Cup 2 years ago. I'm not surprised that they're still favorites in this, but there's a lot that, when you dig in, as we've been talking about it, and give you some confidence that the Jets can win this. So if you want to bet the Jets on the series, Jets plus 110, Avs minus 132. Jets to sweep, 11-1. Jets to win 4-1 is plus 650. Jets to win 4-2 plus 550, and Jets in 7 is plus 450. Avs to sweep plus 850. Avs 4-1 plus 550. Avs 4-2, 4-1. And Avs in 7 is plus 450. And just while we're at it, Cup odds updated. You know, we had that nice run of lock shoppers and WSTers jumping on the Jets at 20-1. That line moved to 15-1 yesterday. It's kind of settled at 17-1. So if you do want to put in a futures bet on the Jets to win the whole thing, it's 17-1. And the Jets to win the West right now, holding firm at 9-1. Oilers plus 350, Avs 4-1, Dallas plus 425. Interesting. Avalanche have a shorter number than Dallas does. Vegas 6-1, Vancouver 7-1, Jets 9-1, Kings 15-1, and the Nashville Predators 20-1. The East numbers, Carolina's the favorite, plus 325, Florida plus 350, Rangers 4-1, Bruins 5-1, Leafs 8-1, Lightning 11-1, Islanders 25-1, and the Capitals 50-1. Yesterday, it was funny. If you wanted to get, just because there were still a bunch of teams that could make the playoffs, Caps were actually lower than Detroit, Philly, or Pittsburgh. 250-1 yesterday. Now that they've won the playoff spot, they're in at 100-1. They're the longest shot in the Stanley Cup tournament. All that's there for you. And by the way, we will have Andy McNeil on, the Digital Gambler, for a series preview, running the numbers and the models on Monday's WST. But Andy's going to join me for a special Friday lock shop while Dusty's away and get Andy's thoughts and models on all 8 series getting underway this weekend. So that's on the lock shop tomorrow. You can join me in the lock shop every day at noon over on the Edmonton Sports Talk channel before we go live here on WST. Reem, before we go, I got to quickly mention this curling news. Craziness in the world of curling. Brendan Botcher sounds like he got fired from his own team. Team Botcher announced yesterday that they're going separate ways. All the other members, Gallant and Jacobs, they're staying together, but moving in a different direction. And earlier today, Team Carruthers announced that Brad Jacobs is leaving the squad, and all indications are that Brad Jacobs is going to be joining the Botcher crew, and Team Botcher will become Team Jacobs. It's that wild, the free agent frenzy of curling. I always do enjoy this time of year following the sport.
It gets crazy here this time of year for curling, but I think the thing is, isn't it like the Winter Olympic cycle? So you're supposed to be with this team for 4 years, and you're in the middle of it, and you have a Botcher getting removed from his own team, and they're going with Brad Jacobs, who's very experienced. So I agree. The curling news is always like, it's crazier than NHL free agency, guys moving teams and ladies teams changing as well. So I am intrigued to see what happens as we wrap up curling season.
Maybe Reed and the Carruthers team can get Botcher, and it's like a trade.
Oh.
Jacobs for Botcher, 2 of the top skips. Lots. TSN Curling's got that. Ted Wyman tweeting about it, and Ted's the best for following curling coverage. So he will have that as well. And hey, shout out to Brad Lambert, the Lambo, AHL all rookie team. And we'll have to be paying attention to that Moose game tonight in Milwaukee, Remis. Jets or Moose with 3 games left tonight in Milwaukee, the weekend in Texas, and most likely just staying in Texas and starting that 3-game series afterwards, unless they're able to win tonight and sweep the weekend, where the series would end up being in Winnipeg.
Yeah, Milwaukee, man. Whenever they're in Milwaukee, I just think of Wayne's World when they went to Milwaukee and Alice Cooper. But yeah, shout out to Brad Lambert, named to the all-rookie team, and it's going to be nice to have 2 teams here in the playoffs. And shout out to the Jets ECHL affiliate Norfolk Admirals also making the playoffs. So intrigued about this roster coming up for tomorrow, and we'll stay tuned to what happens with the Moose.
Yes, we will. By the way, I see people asking about the games. Nothing is confirmed yet. The word on the street is Monday, and in all likelihood, late starts. 8:30 p.m., probably a puck drop in and around 8:45. But again, it's not confirmed. I am operating and expecting that to be the case. But again, until we have clarity, it is all tentative. Hopefully we'll maybe have a bit better of an idea tomorrow as one more game day for the regular season. Jets and the Canucks. Should be a fun one. I think it'll be a real party atmosphere in the building. I know the game, I believe, is sold out. Another great crowd last night. And both teams have had such phenomenal seasons. It doesn't sound like they're focusing on the win too much, despite the kind of peripheral benefits that they could get. And we'll tell you on the show tomorrow whether we might see a few call-ups from the Manitoba Moose for Game 82, in addition to the 5 scratches from last night that will be in the lineup. Thanks to Nic Demski. Thanks to Murat and our pal Dan Robertson for coming on today. Folks, if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk. People are fired up and want as much as they can get on the Jets. This is the place to be every weekday, 1 p.m. And we've got a massive playoff preview coming up on Friday. Do not miss that show. But playoffs and the regular season finale tomorrow on the program. And then it's all systems go for Winnipeg and Colorado beginning on Friday with our full playoff preview on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that make the show happen every day and all of you for making us a part of yours. We'll catch you tomorrow for Game 82 and a game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk, and then it's time to get the whites up. We'll see you then.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.